This is Weird Renegade Witches blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done. Of course, go to the Weird Renegade website. There's the phone number there. 101 lessons are going to start next week. I know this is a little bit later than usual, and I'm talking about the 101 monthly lessons. So hit me up. The phone number's there. Text me. Let me know your availability and so on, and get you guys connected with the monthly lessons. Then of course you understand I do one-on-one weekly lessons, or I work closely with individuals. That is separate from the monthly lessons. And then of course you understand that work is work, but sometimes work and the one-on-ones go hand in hand. But you already know that art is occultism. Occultism is a motherfucking art, and wayward is about that revenge, redemption, and responsibility. This video is going to be very random because I've been peeping peeping the white-collared witchcraft that's been going on in this universal soul. It's so much occultism and witchcraft going on here, and bewitcheries in this universe. You know, I'm always talking about it, but it's been on and on for this month of April. They're really on it because of course, as they call it, the New Year's. They're doing, you know, the purgatory frequency. They're really pushing the purgatory this year. You know, the rise of Jesus the Christ. Then we're having the, you know, right now we're in Passover, and then Good Friday coming, and then the resurrection of Christ. Okay, so they're really on this frequency. Anyways, there's been a lot of energies going on. The Earth, the Moon, the planets, your solar system, your galaxy, instead of moving clockwise, is moving counterclockwise. So either you're missing 2 hours, or 2 hours is added on to you, depending what part of the world you're in, the United States, country. You'll either get 2 days added or 2 days additional added on to your life of days. They have people going counterclockwise where you're tired, sleepy. They're pushing you back into winter, where your skin is becoming even more drier, flaky, dehydrated. So instead of moving into the spring, into the summer, you're moving backwards into winter and fall, because they never want you in spring and summer. And you're like, well, how can they control that? By the media, by telling you the days, by fucking with your iPhone and your Androids and whatever, having you go ass backwards. Things that was is no more, and what is no more, it is today. I'm confused, right? So it's a lot of frequencies going on, especially with them fucking with the weather. We under the New Age Jim Crow, right? New Age. Very, 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 very spooky frequencies going on in this universe, right? The moon was the moon, but the moon was cutting up. It had a whole voice going on, right? I really peeped how they fuck with our heads, and then we're wondering why we have Alzheimer's and dementia, right? I was looking at this Afro Sheen commercial, and when I was looking at the Afro Sheen commercial, it triggered my brain. I said, how in the fuck did I start using shea butter? Shea butter is really not all that to my skin. How did everybody, black, start fucking around with shea butter. And I remember in the early millennium, I was introduced to shea butter when I really got into the consciousness. But growing up, I used cocoa butter. And cocoa butter did my skin just fine. And I was listening to the Afro Sheen commercial and they said, come from the motherland, cocoa butter. I said that was true. Black people use cocoa butter and Vaseline. Where in the fuck did shea butter come from? Not saying that it wasn't there. Not saying it's never been used. But how did I get involved in this? Right? They fuck with our heads. They fuck with time. Even with lesbianism. I know this is really offering lesbianism. I was having a discussion with a spiritual constituents about soft lesbians and sadistic lesbians. And I was telling her they basically got rid of the soft lesbians and put in place sadistic lesbians through the years, where people believe using strap-ons and getting fingered and all of that is part of lesbianism, but it wasn't. It was a different frequency. Sadistic lesbianism included pegging, and it was created by white women. Who were severely abused. And had a sadistic frequency, but under the ritualism of sadism. And soft lesbians would start dating these women and start getting abused. And like, what the fuck is going on? It was a whole protest about it. I believe, was it in the late 70s, early 80s? It's a documentary about it too. And the soft lesbians were like, look, we don't like all that. I don't want no strap on. I don't want your finger in my vagina. This is supposed to be A, B, C, and D. But more and more, lesbians adopted and adapted the sadistic frequency. So they went under the sadism rituals. So we forgot that strap-ons wasn't part of the culture. You see how we could lose our memory? And we're not connecting that strap-ons is sadistic. It's sadism. You're under the ritual of the devil. Because you're putting on a fake dick to harm another person. I know this is above your pay grade, right? Doesn't mean you're a bad or whatever person, but there's a ritual behind it. Understand, if you putting on a strap-on, understand that's a ritual. And if you're in that world that you're doing pegging or whatever, just know what it is and get your money. Because we're not going to sugar and spice it. Because most men who like to get pegged have been through some trauma, abuse, mental despair. And maybe they feel that's their therapy. It's more than a sexual frequency, but we forgot. Because in adult films, white women introduced it. We understood it in the prison system. We understood it in some other parts, but just to see it in porn. Now today, it's the norm. That went to the left, right? But we just want to talk about how we forgot about certain things. Okay? Then they had us watching this horrible movie with this vibrator flying in the air. And I said, wow, that'll be a hellified vibrator. Then I realized it was some kind of shuttle. And I guess they call it the Blue Origin. And it was called the Blue Origin mission. And then I was like, what the fuck? With this all-female crew. An Asian, 2 blacks, a Latina, an alien. I don't know who that senior citizen was because her hair turned whiter. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here, right? And they kept talking about Katy Perry. And I said, she's the alien. I said, who is they going to visit? Him? H-I-M? According to Lady Gaga, capital H-I-M? What the fuck was that horrible movie? I said, next time they got to do better. Some people saying that it was only in the air for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, at the most 20. Oprah crying because her girlfriend, she didn't know if she was going to come back. I'm like, what the fuck? How is it with all of the sounds and everything, you could hear them screaming. You heard them screaming on the way up and screaming on the way down. But when you hear the screams, it wasn't like a film or like, oh my gosh. Oh. It was a scream of something else. I said, what the fucks? It looked like a fucking, not King Kong. What's those Japanese? Kabuki. Like from the 60s. It looked like a Godzilla. I said, is this a Godzilla movie? Lost in Space. I said, you ever seen that? It's an old show called Lost in Space. I said, this shit look crazy. It looked like somebody got some string and just said, I said, they playing with us. They playing. But bitch, they spacesuits look pretty nice. Very Baphomet, right? Is the Baphomet symbol? You see that shit? I don't understand why Jeff Bezos was there. Isn't he a Capricorn? He knows he is fuck. I'm like, why is he there? Is he a woman? Or is he an alien? What the fuck was that? Right? But from what I got out of it, the spacesuits look like, wetsuits was under the energies of Oscar de la Renta. And I guess the creative director was, what's her name, Montse or whatever? But we're going to keep it simple and say Oscar de la Renta. I said, bitch. Textiles. That's going to be the new end thing. And women going to be walking around here in spacesuits, bitch. They really setting it up, aren't they? Don't get black people started on those spacesuits. Then we're going to have a space line dance. Don't get started. Because black people are going to take that and it's going to go to the moon. I'm very interested with that spaceship, whatever that was supposed to be. That rocket, I don't know. Where did the other piece go? It didn't come back down. It just then it parachuted. It looked like an egg capsule. Where did the other piece go? Were they in that other piece? I mean, what's going on? What's happening? Did they go up and then different people came down? Was this supposed to be metaphoric for Jesus dying on the cross and then rising up? I'm just trying to understand the frequencies here, right? What the fuck was that? It's so much metaphors. 6 women. Bell-bottom pants. Then I started thinking about the aquarium. The whole thing reminded me of the aquarium. Then I started thinking about the exploratorium with the magnetic ball and how the hair. Then the aquarium, how the wind. I said, this is a total Hollywood movie. And then, are they supposed to be in history books? Don't put them in history. Because it wasn't history. Because that wasn't a regular type of what I understood is that they have to have a certain type of spacesuit and textile. They were dressed like scuba divers. And this was supposed to be done in Texas. It looked like somebody had lost their tooth. That's why I said the lady's hair, one of the ladies' hair seemed like it was very gray. It reminded me of that Titan submarine shit. They call it tourism rockets. I said, oh, okay, so in the near future, they've been talking about this. That's an explosion waiting to happen, isn't it? Didn't it look like a whole movie set? Doesn't that look like they did it like somewhere like in Laurel Canyon somewhere? Where the fuck? But I'm very interested. But then in California, they had an earthquake. Yeah, I felt the shit, but here's where here's what's very interesting to me. I'm talking to my son, and he was looking on his cell phone. He said it's about to be an earthquake. I said, what are you talking about? He says it's about to be an earthquake. Shake, 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 shake. I said, what the fuck? And I'm looking at my son. I said, dang. And he was like, he was giggling. He's a damn Capricorn. I was like, what the fuck? I said, how did you know it's going to be an earthquake? What the fuck? Oh my God. You know me. Because you know how I'm like, his abilities. And I'm happy. And I'm this. And then here come the tourists. Hey, Mom, I got a notification on my cell phone. It's going to be an earthquake. I said, what? Should have known with that damn Capricorn. He should have known. Continue, Taurus. Yeah. I said, a notification? So then I started thinking about UC Berkeley and the early detection and the Seismo lab. Remember I said I used to work there. So I went and researched and I said, I have never seen this is new. Literally, if they gave us a notification, about a minute later, that shit shook. I said, was that real? What the fuck was that? But I noticed it didn't the notification came on the iPhones, so I didn't notice it on the Android because I have an Android also. I said, something is interesting here. On 4/14, 4/4, here I go. Numbers. But then we're in 2025. Flip that. 5.2. But then I said, they really playing with church. You had that damn thing, that vibrator fly up in the fucking air. Then you have an earthquake. So then they're leading us back into Mark. Let's see here. I'm just talking, y'all, like, what the fucks? Basically, yeah, no, it's not. It's Matthew. The earthquake occurred at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. So this flies up, earthquake, Easter coming. They're really fucking around, right? So I said, And in my head, I'm like, well, was this a real earthquake or a fake one? You have something detecting it. What the hell? This is the first time I've seen that, right? We just talking and understanding natures. And then we have codes going on that connects back to Jesus, which is 818. The code. Yesterday was a code. Not no fucking angel numbers and all that bullshit. I'm talking about codes. Numbers are codes. Because according to the calculations, the codes go back, 818 goes back into Jesus, the portal, into a dimension. Code 25, earthquake, crucifixion. They're creating Jesus and the resurrection to come back. This is all man-made, not in spirit. None of this is spirit. These are human beings, your carnal flesh doing practical ass shit to manifest. How about the whole Bible's a whole bunch of aliens? We always got to flip it and understand. But these motherfuckers are out here creating codes. But 818 is a resurrection and crucifixion. Codes. It's like when I started to look at this new age kids with this fixation with Mexican food, tequilas and all that. I said, Diablo. That's Diablo magic. It's above y'all pay grade. Black people wasn't drinking tequila like that. And now that's all you're hearing. At first I was like, But not all like that. Black people drink tequila like every once in a while. It's like, that's a different frequency. But now it's just constant. That's why y'all crazy. You're under Diablo magic. You're under Diablo works. Eating all them tacos and shit. Not being discriminatory. The Mexicans know what I'm talking about. Eating everything with fucking tortillas. That's why we getting out here, and I said me too, and we shaped like a fucking taco shell. That's why your bellies are becoming bigger. Because taco shells are an illusion. Diablo. I seen this whole concept that I found so interesting. What I found interesting, you niggas sit up there, eat nachos. But corn nachos say it's 60 calories per shell. But say within those nachos, you eating a total of 50 shells cut up. And then you slap on all that shit. You eating tacos. And they don't eat what you eat. Mm. Mm. Everybody always have black people in the works. Something was roaming around my social media. And this pastor looked like he's from, maybe, they say his church may be in Atlanta, Pastor Philip Mitchell. And he was giving black people advice in his church to stay obedient to the man and to cops. And when you stay obedient, you don't get in trouble because we're too disobedient as black people, in so many words. I'm paraphrasing. This is a third world man. They say he's Trinidadian. They say he's from Queens. You have to be careful of these third world pastors uprooting and you listening to them because they have a certain philosophy, because they're leading you into something too. If he's telling you as a man to be obedient to the authority, he is telling you, I am the authority. And when I tell you to do something, you do it. Because I am the authority. I am. It's not so much he is talking about you being obedient to cops and all that shit. It is a psychological game to be obedient to him. And if a woman is married to a man, she automatically believes he is the authority. So if you don't listen to your man, you are disobedient. It goes back to, even remember Esther and the king and how he wanted to have that whole sex energy popping off, and his wife didn't want to be part of it, and he went and crucified his wife because she was considered disobedient. All through the Bible, it talks about obedience and being disobedient, but it strongly talks about it in Kings and also Ecclesiastes. So we have to be careful with these new frame third world pastors coming in who comes from a third world background. Because those are that's missionary talk. And a lot of times what I've learned when they talk about they Jehovah Witness and all that, he sounds like a 7-day Adventist motherfucker. He's under missionary business. So the new hustle is to have a third worlder come in who have lived in America for a period of time, or even their parents are immigrants, learn those behaviors, come at the American people. And you have to understand, they are replacing the old third worlds with new third worlds, so it's going to get worse. So therefore, the old third worlds are getting pushed out and they're bringing in new. But we have to be careful with these new framed religions and how they're wording it. Because we have a whole generation, millennials and Gen Zs, who really don't understand church. And I'm really talking about not the early millennials, but later millennials are very interesting into Gen Zs. I'm telling you, they're creating white-collared witchcraft. I went back and I started to, again, I keep looking at the Vietnam War because I feel that's very important. Because that was the death of the black man and the black family. But nobody ever talks about the Afghan War, or I call it the 9/11 War. I looked at the Vietnam War. It says 1955 through 1975. That's 20 years. 2001 through 2021 for this war, 9/11. Then 9/11 war is going to have a cold fallout. Because nobody ever talks about what the fuck they seen, went through, and there's a whole lot of PTSD. The Vietnam War had a lot of drug and this and that, but they never talk about with the Vietnam War, the mutations that would come out and disabilities. There's a lot of men who have children and their kids are more than autistic. They have retardation. Used to have a lot of Vietnamese that were kind of imbalanced. Where did they go? So I'm interested what's going to come out of this. Because again, you have a lot of men and women in this one who have PTSD. Over there in that energy, they tried to say that it was the American men who introduced what they call them dancing boys, or basically prostitution of little boys. No, it was already going on, and then it was discovered by the by the military. But it's very interesting how much money they make off these wars and who gets rich, right? We don't think about that. But through that, there's a sacrifice of the American people. Can you imagine in the Vietnam War just being drafted and forced? Who in the fuck creates this shit? The 9/11, do you know you have men out here who are afraid, who goes off, and a lot of them are on your police force and firemen? Sheriffs? I was hearing in this what they were seeing in the sand. They were seeing them jinns. They said they would see demons. Women, children shooting at them. Sending their children and children exploding. Getting unnerved because they got tired of hearing the music. It's going to be a fallout from this. It hasn't started yet, but it's getting there, because now they're having families and so on. You're going to have a new frame of children that's going to have some frequencies, right? We learned about the energies of Gaddafi and Hussein. Experiments. Third world people in the American military. They're detached. Where's their loyalty? They're not American. They want to be American, or they made it to America and they put them in the military. Then next thing you know, they're your cops. And then they're very detached because they're not American, right? So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I know for sure they was putting a lot of the Asians, Filipinos, a lot of Mexicans. But there's a difference between an American Mexican and one coming from Mexico. Cesar Chavez made that difference. He was calling the ones coming from the border wetbacks. Yes, Cesar Chavez. He didn't give a fuck. I'm not being rude. But there's a split in the difference, I guess. That's a cold game, a cold piece of spell work, isn't it? And I said, oh, wow, Cesar Chavez said that shit. There's money in pain. That's why we have wars, military PTSD, complex PTSD, all of that. Dissociative PTSD. There's power in pain. Makes you look at the world of homelessness, asylum-based thoughts, struggle life, abuse, harming, pain, and suffering. You beat someone's ass, you guys say it'll affect their chakras or whatever you want to call it. But the whole point is say it right, chakra. Shock. Raw. Raw. And raw being your body. Shocks the nervous system. Made me think about Tammy Terrell. How she kept getting her ass kicked. But the more they kept kicking her ass, they believed the better she sang. That's why they cause so much trauma. Right? The more they can shock you. Because understand, there isn't any such thing as chakras. Chakras, whatever you want to call it. There's no such thing as chakra. They've been playing with our minds for so long, right? I was looking at, just by accident, I was looking at various clips of The Shy. And me and another spiritual constituent was talking about that show, and I was like telling her, I said, I told her, I said, I was reading the comments, and somebody said, this is nothing but King Von's life. I said, King Von? So it made me really examine the show. They create in these cities warlike behavior to cause trauma and PTSDs to create art, a show, social workers, caseworkers, public defenders, school counselors, child services. Is all energies to create a show, a study, experiment. If King Von have always been in a system and have issues, he's a study. He talks about his life, neighborhoods. You talk to the kids' life, teens' life, and neighborhoods. Now they're adults, and you chronicle their life. That's a whole motherfucking show. Create PTSD in neighborhoods and city projects, whatever. Send the police to go shoot and cause war. I said, they right. They're right. Create Vietnam, create all of this to create art. Because especially in the 80s and 90s, we forget there was a hell of a lot of movies about the Vietnam War. And then now they're coming out with different, but just in a different way, energies about 9/11. But then in the early 80s, they was talking about the different wars before that into art. So you create drama to create art and propaganda. Now they're reshifting the art into something else. So now they want to cause psychological famine. So we might be getting more political thrillers and political. And that's okay. Wait a minute. Let me go back because I'm confusing. I'm just telling you about white collared witchcraft. How it has always been in effect, but now it's really presenting itself. You keep creating experimental studies. All along, we don't know what the fuck we're looking at. Because then I started looking at, the Chief Keef and all this stuff. Let's talk about the show Shy. I said, this is nothing but an accumulation of black male trauma that is created not from us, but from governmental to create art. And you would say, girl, we already know that. Do you? Is that why we were like in Power and New Jack City and all of that shit? Because we're not even realizing. We thought they just was like, okay, we're just going to throw crack. No, they're taking human beings and studying them. Yes, incarcerate, because that's a study. Yes, take your child from you, because that's a study. Follow your child through elementary, through high school. That's a whole movie by itself. Create an issue with your son. Write him up so you can manipulate his existence of where he moves in life. Story of their life, group home, foster care. Destructive household. Dysfunctional of household. Throw crack. No parents, nobody. Live with grandma. Oh, we got a story. Mother gave you up on drugs. Have white people adopt you and mold you into a football player, basketball player. Do not realizing your first energies of culture is your family. The outside world is not your culture. Your family is your culture. So we judge ourselves against other cultures who haven't been deteriorated and broken apart. The Mexicans stick together. The Indians stick together. But they have a strong family culture first before culture. Then you're wondering, what's the real reason behind all this shit going on with black people? We have no culture within our families because we don't have family. So we create a culture. If you have a family, your family gives you what you need to equip you. It is the culture of the family. Because within the family, they'll say, don't do that. That's what white people do. That's what they do. That's what this is. That's what that is. Take that wig off. The fuck? But now you've changed that into trauma. Oh, my mama did this and they did that and they did this. It's called culture. Just like when I was telling you about the biracial shit, culture. Because there's spell work within the culture. Because the funny thing is, whatever happened within the culture of your household is what happened in the culture of your household. Whatever you do on the outside is what you do on the outside, but at least you have a culture. That's why back then you had more black men who were gay, but fought more on the black side because they came from culture. There was more of a warning to black guys and black females about white folks. You didn't tend to go out, or you understood like, that's what that is, but that's the way that's to be treated. You didn't tend to go out, eat other cultured foods and their life. You learned about it, but it wasn't so much you went out to fuck with it. It's wild how we're being studied, not even knowing we're being studied. We're studying them, but they're studying us, right? Social media is nothing but a case study on us, right? What I've also noticed is since the pandemic, again, we are being watched. We're watching them and they're watching us. Social media was really created for those people, as you guys call them, famous or celebrities, because they're non-talented and they need energies to thrive. They need material. It's very interesting to have people who have a psychosis try to analyze people and say they have a psychosis. In psychology books, Hinduism is not considered a religion. It is considered a New Age movement that they use as a cattle for other religions, of philosophies, principles, astrology, zodiacs, and more. It's a geometry. Hinduism is not a religion. It's a psychological test. They told you chakras. They told you karma. They told you gurus. And you followed it. They said Buddhism. They say this. They say that. It all falls under this. It's a social experiment. It's not a religion. It's a social experiment. All along, which leads back into behavioral therapy. Astrology is used to play chess with people's lives, to position people the way they want them, charts, under Hinduism. They told you it was Greek and this and that, but they're not really telling you where they came up with the whole concept. It's a game. It made me think about actor, ACTOR. Actors. And I said to myself, I said, is being an actor therapy? Or people just acting out their trauma? And they gave them a space. Back then they had follies and this and that. Silent films. But what is the asylum behind being an actor? Until I seen Act R. I said, uh-oh. No wonder Hollywood is fucked up. Because people now realizing that they're cosplaying, their fantasy playing, their therapy, behavior, a great energy for people with bipolar, schizophrenia, and PTSD, trauma-based behavior, is to do ACT R therapy, behavioral. So you create all these great actors through pain and suffering and mental disorders. But you tell them it's therapy. It's a form of therapy. Right? I was just telling somebody that their behavior was like the catatonic schizophrenic. Emotional disorders, autism, all of that shit. What really made me peep it, I was looking at Jennifer Lewis. And she called Trump mentally ill, and in so many words, a psychopath and a sociopath. I said, but then years later, she turned around talking about she bipolar and almost fell in the fucking ditch. That's what I'm talking about. People with psychosis telling you crazy. Shit. That's why I'm like, psychologists are very interesting specimens, aren't they? These people from the Germans to the British who did all these studies, they all were crazy. Sigmund Freud, all of them were crazy as fuck. I said, she calling Trump crazy? Shit. Then somebody hit me up talking about It's Terrence Howard, Elon Musk. I said, oh. Because he been behavioral acting for a minute. You could tell he was disruptive as a kid. He goes from hood to a thespian. We don't know which one. That's just like I was talking about. Who was I talking about? Lorenzo Tate's brother. I said, that nigga crazy. Good, but interesting. So when I did the calculations on Terrence Howard and Elon Musk, I said, man, I've been wondering why he been looking like that. I knew that was a mask. Now he done went from a thespian to telling on. I'm like, I'm not hearing no more shit about no Puff Daddy. He not in jail for what he in jail for, if he's there. Matter of fact, I don't believe he's there. Don't keep telling on him when we know the real shit. Stop making Puff Daddy the cattle. I'm tired of everybody talking about him. Just admit that they use astrology for hypnosis and astrology for psychology, because that's how they control us. They control us through astrology. They know which astrology, aka horoscopes, to put in place to start shit. I was listening to Corey Holcomb. His clip came up. I don't know how old this clip is, but he said that BBLs, women who have BBLs, I'm paraphrasing, are whores and autistic. I said, that's very familiar to me. Where'd that come from? They wasn't talking like that. Because remember, I said in my study, I said, in the long run, they're going to deem people who get plastic surgery like that, homosexuals, transsexuals, and all of that, as autistic. See what I'm talking about? How people watch your shit and watch you on social media so they can get materials, right? So then I was talking to a couple of people about the energies. And I started thinking, maybe they're onto something when they say these people are talking in codes. Because when he said women, he may not be talking about a biological woman. He may be talking about a trans. Because the history of trans, and we're going to talk about the ones who believe that they're women of trans, is prostitution. And most of the time back, from what I've seen, individuals, and a lot of times I've seen it with Latinas, but then later on, so I started seeing it with, black men and shit, of getting fillers, these BBLs, whatever you want to call it, hips, and da-da-da-da, were out there prostituting. The madams, most of the madams were these trans. So now going forward, the psychological game of the agenda of the agenda gang and cult is people now going to attach BBLs to black women being whores, but in reality, most likely he's talking about trans. Just like somebody a gay person had to tell me, they was talking about Young Berg, even though I was like, but I will give you the flip side of what they were saying to me. And what they were saying to me, that Young Berg, when he said that fat women were well, he said, what did he say? Fat bitches? He said, no, he's talking about trans. How these trans are getting them surgeries and BBLs and then putting themselves in place of the biological woman. I said, what? It's codes. It's propaganda. We getting caught up in codes. I had another spiritual constituent talk about the word bitch. And where it, and who, when we hear it, they're talking about men. Bitch. Yeah, bitch. I said, oh, really? Codes. And these people who's under this psychological therapy and behavioral is pushing this frequency out here. But it's all under psychological study. Everything is a case study. And we're getting caught up in it, right? I was looking at Coachella live. And it is very clear Coachella has upgraded itself and have some very good investors. And it was very interesting. I was looking at it during the night, Friday into Saturday, early morning. And I found it very interesting because of the planets, and Mars was out and about. And I just mostly noticed Mars. And of course, that big ass moon. The first person, and some of the propaganda is that you're having third world people keep trying to talk about the elitism of Coachella and I said, what are they trying to make this into? So what type of psychological propaganda? Anyways, I was looking at Lady Gaga. No. I was looking at Miss Elliott first. I don't know who that woman is who's Beelzebub, because that's what it reminded me of, her set. But they need to just go on and just retire her. Retire that being Beelzebub pretending to be Miss Elliott, because I know that's not her. And all through the set, this person couldn't dance, they couldn't move, they were lip syncing. I've never known Miss Elliott to be wearing long hair like that. That was Beelzebub. So they up there playing Bible shit right now. Okay, so then I was looking at Lady Gaga. I don't believe that was Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga energy is different. It's a different frequency. This person didn't have any energy. Okay? And again, playing with the Bible. People may be like, oh, demonic. I didn't see anything that was really demonic. I seen where they're using the Bible in different ways. And I peeped on her set that she was fighting God. So she was Jacob. And the blood of Christ. Not blood the Christ, but blood of Christ, the God is woman. She had them women in red. And so anyway, she was fighting in the sand, because I guess Coachella is in a desert or whatever. And so she fighting in the sand in the desert. And then lost the fight like Jacob. And remember, God renamed Jacob Israel. I said, oh, okay. So Lady Gaga is not who she is anymore. Okay. Then she went from that to Lazarus. Then I was looking at, oh, Ra the High Eye. Then I said, ooh, but then it could be the black moon, the sun, as you guys call it, the phoenix. And there's a whole lot of shit going on that was Christ-like. Then she went to Alejandro. Then I said, in a minute, they gonna make a theatrical play out of her. I said, this would be a damn good Broadway with Lady Gaga. Maybe call it the Blood of Christ. Because her whole set was Christ talking about the Bible. And people talk about, this was the best. What are you talking about? That it didn't even look like it was her. She had no energy. And then her set went into Saturday at the high moon and the high Mars. Now it went into Passover. Right? But then at the same time, Lady Gaga, it went into Jesus going into hell. It went into purgatory. Then Travis Scott, I looked at a bit of his shit. Woo. Now he's Jesus in the purgatory. He sounded like a whole metallic box. I said, ooh, Lady Gaga. Then you got Travis Scott. The set with Miss Elliott is the beginning. Genesis. I'm gonna remind you of Genesis. That's why I said Beelzebub. You got Lady Gaga coming in, Lazarus and Christ. And then, oh, I drop into hell purgatory. I fought with Jake. I'm Jake. I fought with God. Now I'm somebody else. Then Travis Scott. Fucking with him, I feel like I fell in hell. Ooh, we at the crucifixion. Ooh. Ooh. I was looking at a bit at that Charlie, and I guess she brought out, I said, she sound like an Autobox, like a Transformer. I think she came on before Miss Elliott, or I don't know how they was cutting it. I don't know what is what, but then that she, I guess Billie Eilish came out. I said, what is up with this modern day back in the day urban style? I said, Bill, I was looking at the style. I said, that reminds me of like early millennium. Like dudes wearing how they used to wear they. So you tell me white kids coming back with this style? It's not grunge. It's not skateboard. That's why the Choloettes was talking about Gwen Stefani when she first came out with No Doubt and shit. And then later on, she took the whole Cholo style. And they calling her a cosplay. And I understood what they saying, because I just thought she was from Anaheim. That's where they dressed. But the Choloettes was like, bitch. Then I said, well, damn, if y'all feel like that, should we feel that way too? That you and Gwen Stefani Choloettes stole from black people? We all friends, right? We just talk. We all friends. Isn't that a tussle? A tussle? Is that what we're going through right now? Or are we wrestling with God, black people? And we want to win this fight so bad. But we're losing. That sooner or later we got to stop the wrestle and just lay ourselves down and be renamed, rebranded. And when we understand that there's something else above us that's even higher than God, and stop tussling, stop fighting. We're fighting and tussling. That's above y'all pay grade. They're rebranding black people in the industry. Lil Nas X. Did you see that interview they had with his cracked out mama? Lizzo. These are all energies that they've given to white people. I was looking at that Sabrina, what's her name, Carpenter, whatever. She sound like 2000s. Remember I talked about that Chapel Roan, who sound like the 1980s with a touch of Pat Benatar and Taylor Swift. Then I went back, I was listening to this group called Jungle. That's funk and R&B. Dolce sound like Foxy Brown. I was listening real closely. She's a whole hack, but she for the white folks, but she sound like Foxy Brown. They got Lizzo sounding like the 70s. Have y'all been peeping those copper antenna things that people been holding in their hand, swearing? They calling on something. I said, they better put them fucking electro lobotomy things down. Shit, I don't know what the fuck you calling it and attracted. We got walking entities walking around here. And you thinking you getting it right. Then I found out that a couple of my clients, spiritual constituents, then sat up and, shamefully told me. I said, oh, I cracked it. And I said, what did you call? And one of them said they had to put it down. She said she went out in the universe. I said, y'all playing. We're in a time, I told y'all, of purgatory. Necromancies. White-collared witchcraft. You can't be playing with this shit. Why did we need to know that Jasmine Sullivan didn't have an abortion? Oh, I mean, a miscarriage. Why do we need to know she sacrificed her child? Did you hear about Sha'Carri Richardson people in that damn mortuary shit? The fuck they doing? Over there, I think it happened in Texas. And then the man got stabbed and all that shit. Some of them bodies didn't look real to me. But just so happened, I know a spiritual constituents who said that the Richardsons worked on her people and they did a horrible job. I said, what in the fuck is going on here? What are they in it? What's up? Now they all caught up. Yeah, you know that I didn't know that her people ran a mortuary. Huh. And then they said that the DA is not picking it. Then I started thinking, who done sat up and told on the Richardsons? Are these some Mexicans? Because you know the Mexicans are taking over the mortuary business. The churches and everything that was black, they've taken over. So, for example, like the black churches that used to house the black churches, they've taken over and then having little trafficking shit popping up with the girls in the church, allegedly. And then with the mortuaries, they've taken over the mortuaries that were black. Is this what's happening here? Or what's happening? What's going on? There's always something connected to something. I was tripping when Trump, it's not Trump, it's probably some Indians or something behind it. Talk about that they didn't want narco music in America. I said, narco music? The fuck is a narco? So I went and I said, oh. I said, I didn't know this is what I was listening to. Well, what? This sounds crazy, right? Corpses having a stench and all that, and it's so much stuff going on, right? Do you also notice every time Hollywood romanticize mafia, black people crimes, now cartels, they end up getting rid of them? Have y'all noticed that trend? I'm just saying. We have to understand the energies. And also, with the Richardsons, what underground business deals was going on with that? What is that connected to? Right? What is this girl named Gabrielle Sudabay? Her mama died. I didn't know she had a mama, let alone one that sings. Aren't those twins spooky? Shouldn't they be 3 years old by now? Why are they still babies in arms? Am I tripping? Have you seen the energies with Michelle Obama and her brother? It's diabolical. Right? It's diabolical. Is this an AI, or are we looking at the same people and they telling us it's different people? Like, is Michelle Obama him and he her? Or are we looking at something split screen? And where did he come from? That story with, let me see, I want to make sure I have his name right. Is it Kyren Lacy? Kyren Lacy, the LSU young man, just so happened, we're going to say spiritual constituents have knowledge of his story. And what the fuck they saying in the media is not the true story. What are they talking about? It was something going on, and it's like a total setup. Look, I don't know where they came in with the suicidal story and the police chase. There was what police chase? What are you talking about? Why don't you tell the truth that somehow he got set up in something and something happened with his car and there was something else going on, and then they're trying to get, it's a whole shenanigans behind an alleged military man, a veteran, and they're saying that he accidentally killed that man in an accident. And the white people, they said, was harassing him over it. But then they said that Kyren was dating a white girl. And they said he was a very nice and kind person, but something changed him when that accident happened. Isn't it very interesting? LSU again, college. They say there's heck of a sportsman that died and everything else. What the fuck is going on? What kind of setup is this? And do you notice how Kyren Lacy looked like Anthony Carmelo Sincere? I want to hold off because I want to see what else comes up out of this Kyrie synergy. Because when I seen all the motherfuckers giving him, condolences, I was suspicious. But what they telling you in the media is not true. And the person that I talked to, I said, no, he didn't commit suicide, allegedly. They just coming up, making up stories. It's very interesting how he and Carmelo, allegedly on Monday, both had to go in front of the grand jury. And I said, why would Kyren have to go in front of the grand jury? It was an accident. And then you start hearing more backstories of that whole incident and what it was connected to. So the media, whosoever, just made up a whole other story about the suicide because they're covering up. Allegedly. What the fuck is going on with that Anthony Carmelo shit? Y'all don't think it's odd? He's in a gray suit. The fuck is going on? That in his he's a whole cold. Who is that? He played football? What the fuck is going on here? The mug shots don't even add up. Then he and Kyren Lacy and this Anthony Carmelo, they look alike. Then they had a different person on the mugshot. Why they keep, what is happening here? I gotta wait for more details. I gotta wait for the details. In reference to Aries, because none of that what they say in the media is true. That's not true. That's not what happened. That's not true. See what I'm talking about? Y'all believe anything. We're gonna say allegedly, but that's not what I know. That's not that autistic child, Shay, and her sister Brianna. They got Shay under ritual, huh? I'm watching it and she is malfunctioning. She's overly stimulated. They got this girl under Hindu. They got her doing affirmations. They got her holding a mirror charm with the pentagram on it. And she putting 2 fingers to her head talking about spells. I said, what is this? They got her under straight ritual. You know what work I've been having to work through? Finding out that my clients / spiritual constituents been under work. Having to break the twin flame spell work. Meaning this. What the fuck is going on with you women doing work with your men? Do you understand if you're a bleeding woman, men can pull from your frequencies and then you go have sex with their asses as you're in that ritual? What's wrong with you? Then that nigga go and control you and break up with you, live, take your money. What's wrong with you? That sex magic shit. What's wrong with you? You on some dumb shit? Now we gotta break that shit. As you guys are broken up, he keeps feeding off of your shit and you wonder why your hands are thin, your pockets are thin. Or you going through tribulations. Okay. Y'all see that helicopter? That had that CEO? My question is this: how come there are 2 different helicopters? There's the one that they took a picture in front of, then the one that was removed out of the Hudson River. Okay, but where's the real one? So y'all didn't catch that, huh? Y'all didn't catch when it was coming down, then it hit the water, that there were two different helicopters. And the numbers of the children are death numbers. And then they don't give us the pilot name. They just tell us he's 36 years old. Yes, the helicopter they took a picture in front of and was white or beigey. The one they pulled out the Hudson River was black. It was a black helicopter. What's her name? Anaja? The one that was in Pakistan, didn't Dubai? Now they have her running around New York. Talk about Allah, Allah. And that's not even her. I don't know who that is, but that's not her. Where's the real one? She even sounds different. What games is going on here? The fuck? And this is what people are condoning, knowing that she has a payee. There's this story this woman was talking about that came out of Bangladesh. And I said, this is stories that happen right here in the United States. They was talking about an 8-year-old girl who went to go visit her sister. When she went to go visit her sister husband sexually assaulted her. The sister's husband's father sexually assaulted her. And then the brother-in-law sexually assaulted her. And the girl went into cardiac arrest. I said, whoa. But I hear shit like that all the time here in the United States. I said, what in the fuck is that? But people don't talk about this energy with the Bangladesh or the Indian people, whatever. Why are we not talking about this? Because these are the people who own the hotels and shit. In Vegas right now, and I'm wondering who really bought Vegas, and they should not have changed the frequencies of Vegas into dragons. Just okay, they're talking about at the MGM that the not the cleaning staff, but the housekeeping staff is being laid off, and that Caesars, they was doing a comparison about Caesars thriving. I said, And back before the pandemic, they changed the frequency of Vegas by having that big ass temple. But the big ass temple was in front of Caesars. I remember that. I think in front of Hell's, like beside Hell's Kitchen. So when you go around Vegas, you see a whole bunch of dragons, but that wasn't what Vegas was built on top of. You can't sit up and change your religion and then think it's still going to thrive. Right? So then it made me think about, I said, so are the Indians, aka Patels, coming in, going to take over? So now we're going to get horrible customer service? Cheap? cheap energies in these hotels? Because, you know, that was the whole energy of them coming cheap. What's happening? More trafficking? We so busy watching the cartels, but we're not watching the right people, huh? Okay. People have been asking me about the tariffs. What did I think about the shit with China and luxury brands? I don't think shit. I'm more interested in how in the fuck is Harvard and all these Ivy League schools getting federal grants? I have questions. And getting all these grants for research. Meanwhile, you have Howard that's flooding and shit. Them federal grants will help right there in some of these colleges that need help. How in the fuck is Harvard getting anything federal? I have some questions. You guys keep being angry with Trump. No, I have questions. See, this is what happens with white-collar witchcraft. Y'all don't look at the right things. Why don't we start peeping shit like, what the fuck were they doing? You all don't have questions on how Ivy League schools got all these billion-dollar grants? That's my question. Anyway, here's my other question. They were talking about under the energies of white-collar witchcraft that during the Biden administration, Biden also did tariffs against China. So therefore, if you go back, you guys need to go and do your research on what Biden did to Democrats during their time in office. They also did tariffs. Everything they're making a big deal about Trump doing, it was already done back when it's been going on. The thing that's really whooping me, and with me, you know, studying fashion and everything, you have to understand that sweatshops has always been around. They have always done, you know, luxury brands have went over there to Mexico and China, mainly Mexico and China, creating luxury brands. So what? You don't, in the 90s, it was a big deal about Nike. Y'all don't remember about Nike and that big deal? And sweatshops, they've been talking about Louis Vuitton and all of them. And what? And what? What's the big deal? Is it a big deal now? You don't know what the fuck we're looking at with China. First of all, they're not even in China in them sweatshops. They didn't ran their asses over here. What are you talking about? They've built up shops here. They're going to get the people in jail to get the cracking. And then the Indians and the Chinese then came over here and built warehouses. And then in Italy, they have a whole Chinatown with a warehouse. What are y'all talking about? Why are we tripping off of that? Luxury designers have always done that, and what? I'm not tripping. You tripping? My trip is this. They said on May 14th of 2024, the Biden put a tariff against China. Then here's the part that blew me away. May 30th of 2024, Trump was convicted of all 34 counts. And then they talked about that what they was getting him on was past the statutes. Did y'all know that he was convicted on May 30th of 2024? What's going on here? I told you he was on house arrest. No wonder all this mess is going on. This is a front. They just trying to cause famine with people's pockets and cause hysteria. They need y'all niggas to work up in them warehouses for $17 an hour. Isn't that a cold game and a cold spell? Have you working for some Indians in a warehouse and Chinese in a warehouse? They're already here. What's the big deal? There's always been sweatshops here. In San Francisco, it used to be hella sweatshops. And it would say made in the USA. I don't think anything. I think it's on cap. Because some of them tariff cities and countries don't even make sense. Some of them don't even exist. The fuck? I guess y'all can't shop what they call Wayfair, huh? During the pandemic, a lot of the Chinese escaped out of China. The Chinese frequency is a whole underground market. I think it's cap. This shit, that's why I said this shit been going on. And what? I never thought that my shit was made over there in Italy somewhere or France. The fucks? Where in the hell do you think your iPhones were made? All that shit. Majority of luxury designs, that's where they made at. And what? I don't understand why y'all tripping. Then get your sewing machines out and learn how to sew. You gotta even watch out where the fuck fabrics come from. That's why people get things custom made. Private labels. Exclusive. Why y'all having, what's the problem here? I'm trying to understand. Why is this such an uproar? What you should be concerned about is China making iPhones and creating auto fillers, which are cyber psychics. They give predictions. Cyber predictions on your cell phones that can pull energy and pull functions from your brain and then read it while you're sleeping. You got your cell phone next to you, it could pull. What is that, this new thing they have called, I think it's called a nodding, and it has a disc and shit, you put it on your temple. You know that's Chinese. Why are we playing? Right? I think we're tripping off bullshit. Because we're under psychological warfare, huh? Have y'all been watching the fetishes on Instagram of women breastfeeding their babies upside down and squirting out breast milk? Have you been watching the fetish of bestiality of white men having cows and shit in videos? Doing nasty shit? Have y'all been seeing that on Instagram? Did y'all see Kumo D? Talking about he didn't want to have children and blamed a woman? What's wrong with these niggas? Just say you don't want to have kids. But don't blame the woman. Like she was trying to force him to have a kid. That's why he didn't have a kid. Did you see on social media that in Vietnam they eating pig vagina? They cook it and saute it and fry it. And then they said it has a fishy smell to it. So they got to clean it real good. Pig vagina. Then I became rude in my brain and said, "What? Well, in that case, you might as well get a white woman." But I was rude in my brain, so you got to ignore me. Because, you know, they say that white people's skin are like pigs, allegedly. I'm not being rude. I'm just being, you know. They said it in the book. They said that white, I'm just saying, research it. Isn't that like cutting up a... They got Asians out here eating pig vagina? That's diabolical. That's the devil. Anyway. Why is it popping up that more and more busts are happening with brothels and it's ran by Asian women? See what I'm talking about? When I'm talking about them tariffs? This is Weird Renegade Witches blog. It is up when you want some real motherfucking work done.